is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. I don't even remember last night's slate. Who'd you even need? You needed Matt Wood. I know that.
I mean the Panarin line.
Yeah,
Panarin had 2 goals. Lafreniere had the 3-point bonus. Trocheck had 2 assists and a shot. Like he didn't do. It wasn't great, but it was good.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, like statistically speaking, that was one of the Rangers' worst performances of the season, and they won 6-3. So, maybe some regression to the mean there. But we have a doozy here tonight. 9-gamer. We got some big boys on the slate. We have Matthews. We have McKinnon. We have Cutter Gauthier. Can we throw him in that mix yet? Frostback isn't here to see that yet. He'll probably pop in at like 2:07, be like, I've made it. But yeah, joining me to break down in his elite Seattle Supersonics hat, Slim Clifford, what's going on?
Yeah, every time I put on this hat, I just think of the Ice Cube song. I got the booze, she got the chronic, the Lakers beat the Supersonics. Yeah, weird slate last night because Nashville got 3 goals, all 3 from Matt Wood, including 1 in the final minute of the third period to cap off the hat trick. The Panarin line had a great game. Connor McDavid had a couple goals. Jake Wallman absolutely slammed last night. So there were some big performances, but the only line that did well was the Panarin line. Like, other than the Panarin line, Matt Wood individually scored every other even strength line on the slate. So, whatever. I was caught watching the Islanders game. Second time in 4 nights I spent my evening watching the New York Islanders. It's like something's got to change. But watching the Islanders, I got the vibe of them like they're the Eastern Conference St. Louis Blues, but with better goaltending. What I mean by that is, like, at their best, I think the Islanders have 3 good lines, but no great lines, kind of like St. Louis does. And they have 3 good defensemen and 3 defensemen that they need to replace immediately. Because, I don't know if anybody's I'm sure there's Islanders fans watching this.
There aren't.
Who don't, I mean, maybe not. Somebody should check on them. Or if anybody's watched the Islanders regularly, it's like you watch Adam Pelech play. He looks good. Obviously, Matt Schaefer looks tremendous. Pullock, solid as ever. But if the puck ever comes near D'Angelo, Romanoff, or Mayfield, it's holy shit, hang on to your hats time. So many times, every time I watch the Islanders, there's a play where Scott Mayfield's literally getting turned around so bad he's facing the wrong way. It's incredible. And it's frustrating in a sense because, if they could add 3 just average NHL defensemen, 3 number 4 defensemen to fill out that roster, I don't know, maybe do they push for a wild card spot? Maybe they could. With this defense core, they're not. So I only bring that up because we do have the St. Louis Blues on the board here tonight at home to the Calgary Flames. Should be interesting. But like you said, a lot of big names on the board, an incredibly, just from a fan's perspective, just a wildly exciting game tonight in Colorado as Anaheim's going in to face the Avs. That should just be a ton of fun to watch. So not only does it look like a pretty fun DFS slate, but just from a hockey watching perspective, it looks like it's going to be a great night.
Speaking of getting turned around, Danton Matejchuk may never recover for what Connor McDavid did to him last night. That was disgusting. He didn't deserve that, but that's what McDavid does. I mean, the most popular McDavid gif is the one against the Rangers when he went through the whole team and scored. But man, Matejchuk got put into the spin cycle. Anyway, let's talk about the Leafs. That's a good segue. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.4 total heading into Boston. The Bruins have a 3 total. This is a house of horrors for the Leafs. Love a good game 7 in Boston. Blow some leads, do some stuff. Leafs did mix up their lines, though. They're not loading up the top line. They're going Matthews, Nyes, Robertson, which is 19,400, I believe, instead of with Nylander there, 23,400. The second line is Tavares, Nylander, McMahon. That's really the only one of note there. Boston going Pastrnak, Geeky, Kuznetsov, Zacha, Arvidsson, Steves. The only reason I mentioned that second line is because Arvidsson has been on a little bit of an Arvidsson heater. It's what he does. He'll have like another 8 points in the next 7 games and then miss 3 months because that's what Victor Arvidsson does. Interesting game, though. 6.5 total here. It's like I was kind of hoping Nylander was going to be with Matthews. It makes it a lot easier to stack them, even though the price is a lot higher.
I was going to say it makes it a lot easier to fade them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, at that price, it's a lot easier to fade. But, like, if you're going to play the Leafs, you want their 2 best players together. And, like, it was funny because I was thinking to myself, like, has Nylander really had that good of a season? But he has 23 points in 13 games. He's doing just fine. And, like, Matthews, like, he obviously misses Marner, but, like, he'll be fine. This is a good power play matchup. It's just really expensive to stack the top power play. If you want to do Matthews, Nylander, Nyes, it's 23,400, and that's the cheapest iteration. If you want to put in Tavares instead of, I guess you could do Matthews, Nyes, Tavares, something like that. But like if you're going to power play stack, Matthews and Nylander are the 2 you really want to get in there. So if you want to do Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, it's double center and 23,900. They're on the road too. And the problem is, right, despite it being a good matchup, you have the Avs at home for less money. And we'll talk about the Ducks. Like, they're the highest scoring team in the league, but they're still bad defensively. You know what I mean? So, like, you're saving money, getting just as good as matchup. That Avs have a higher total. They're at home. The Leafs are going into Boston. So, like, I do like the Leafs. It's just hard to prioritize them in single entry at that price for what I want to do with them, right? And it would be a power play stack. And I would focus around Matthews and Nylander. And if you add in Nyes, it's 23.4. You add in Tavares, it's almost 24K. So maybe you could do Matthews, Nylander, and OEL, or if it's Riley, I forget. I think it's still OEL. Yeah. That's OEL isn't super expensive, so I think that's a way to do it. But for me, in single entry, like, and we'll talk about it, and the Ducks slappies will get mad, but I think Colorado's in a better spot than the Leafs here tonight. So if I was 20 maxing, I would definitely have at least 1 or 2 Leafs power play stacks. If you just want to go to that second line, Tavares, Nylander, and McMahon for 18-1, like, it's fine, but 18-1, right? And we'll talk about it. You have the Eriksson Ek line right around that price. You have Montreal 1. You have a couple Dallas lines right there. You have Carolina. It's just like, do I want to play an 18,000 second line in single entry? And I just ripped off 4 or 5 other lines in that price range. So, like, it would be a Toronto power play stack for me. On the Boston side, I think, it would be a power play stack the other way as well. Obviously, Pastrnak one-off is fine. I would do something with, like, just Geeky Pastrnak, McAvoy, Geeky Pastrnak, Arvidsson, something like that. The Leafs are still the team they were last year defensively, which isn't great. And the big difference is, like, Stolarz isn't excellent like he was last year. They're pretty bad defensively. So normally I'm not super high on Boston here, especially on a bigger slate. But I think there's some merit there. I think, if you want to go Boston 1, that's fine. But as Kuznetsov is kind of just a guy, which just locked in 21.7 DK points. But I would try to find, a way to leave him off, add in Arvidsson, add in McAvoy, something like that. So it's power play stacks on both sides. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get there in single entry. Haven't built yet, but there is stuff to like on both sides.
So I'm going to start with Toronto. Here's the thing with that Toronto top line. individually, I like all three players. Like obviously, Austin Matthews, great. Nyes is a great like forechecker digger, plays well around the net. Like Nick Robertson is a very underrated goal scorer. It's just he's never played a ton of minutes. But if you look at it as per minute scoring rate over the last couple of years, it's not elite, but certainly top line quality. Problem is none of them are playmakers, right? It's like who's going to pass the puck? Like can't just step across the blue line and fire a wrist shot from 60 feet. So like I really do like all three players. If it was like Robertson, Nylander, Matthews, I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe we're cooking with something here. Or even like Domi, Matthews, and Robertson or something like that. Not that I'm a huge Max Domi fan, but just somebody that can actually pass the puck because none of them are really good like playmakers. Like they're all Matthews is fine, Nyes is fine, Robertson's okay. None of them are really good at it. So like I don't really like that line combination. I think they're playable because, like you said, it's not like Boston's a good defensive team. I was looking earlier to see if Boston had improved defensively as the season has gone on. They're fourth worst expected goals against in the league over the last 10 games. It's like they're not getting any better. So it's a pretty good matchup. And like Robertson's only 3,800. Feels like a pretty good spot for a one-off. I just don't know if I'm going to stack because, one, I'm not confident that line's going to stay together. And two, I don't like the line composition as it is anyway. So I'm out on Toronto 1. Toronto 2 is not really a factor for me. Like Bobby McMahon's really not done a whole lot so far this season. Like if you wanted to, man, Nylander and Tavares, I guess that's fine. I agree with you. I'd probably figure out some sort of power play stat, even though it is expensive. The reason I would do that is because Boston does take a ton of penalties. Third most time shorthanded per game on the season. Toronto's power play has been better with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Not only are they scoring more, they're shooting more. So they're getting better looks and more volume. And those are the types of things you want to see with a power play. So if you want to do like, Matthews, not like just go with old Matthews, Nyes, Nylander, I think that's fine. Like Matthews, Tavares, Nyes, like something like that. I hate that Matthews and Nylander are playing across two lines because it feels bad, like stacking the Leafs and not including one of them in the stack, especially if this is a 4-game slate. I say maybe you could get away with it. Like on a 9-game slate, like not playing one or the other, I don't know. So like, like I said, I think like honestly, like a Robertson one-off might be my favorite thing from the Leafs side. I just, the way the lines are set up and how expensive they are, I just don't have a ton of interest here. On the Boston side, like for me, it's top line or bust. Like if you're playing an even strength line, it's top line or bust. Like I'm not playing Alex Steves. Like, it's just not. That Boston top line hasn't been creating a ton, but they've been creating well, if that makes sense. Only 50 shot attempts per 60 minutes, but 2.9 expected goals. David Pastrnak at times lately has been playing both halves of the power play. So like he's getting a boatload of power play time. The Leafs don't take a ton of penalties. The penalty kill is not like elite or anything like that. Certainly nothing to be concerned over. I don't mind just, straight playing Boston 1. I would be kind of tempted to take off Kuznitkov and put in Pavel Zacha. I mean, it's only an extra 800 and it's not like that line is super expensive to begin with. Like you can stack them for 18,200. That's pretty reasonable to me for a 3 total. So that's kind of what I would do is, put Zacha into a top line stack with Geeky and Pastrnak. If you want just one off Pastrnak, I think that's fine. But just in a nutshell, I have more interest in the Boston side than I do the Toronto side, and it's certainly the top line.
Washington Capitals, 2.7 total. Heading into Carolina, the Hurricanes have a 3.3. Shane Gostisbehere is back for Carolina. That's a boost to their power play. Carolina going Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Ehlers, Stankov, and Blake. Stahl, Martinook, Carrier. Washington going Ovechkin, Strome, Beauvillier. Wilson, Protas, McMichael. This is a really interesting game because Carolina is one of the best offensive teams at 5-on-5. per expected goals per 60. I think they're like 3.2 expected goals per 60, which is, I think, top 3 in the NHL. Strangely enough, like Washington's one of the better 5-on-5 defensive teams by expected goals against per 60. But the kicker for me is the leader in goals saved above expected per 60 at even strength is Logan Thompson. 1.1 goals saved above expected per 60 at 5-on-5. That's nasty. So not only that, right? Like Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier have been fine defensively in a smaller sample. So like, while I think Ghost is definitely going to help the power play, I don't know if I can prioritize the Hurricanes here, even though they're large favorites. They have a 3.3 total. I like them because Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, only 18K, fully correlated, creating a ton, scoring a ton. It's just like I don't want to stack against Logan Thompson. So, in 20 max, I think having 1 of 20 is fine. It's the same thing for the second line, Blake, Stankov, and Ehlers. They've been great. I'd be more likely to play them than the top line in single entry just because they're 13,300. Their filler line, get Ehlers on the top power play. Blake and Stankov and play a ton of 5-on-5. They're coming in under 2%. But again, like, don't want to stack against Logan Thompson. So I do like Carolina. It's just I don't want to stack against the elite goalie. On the Washington side, I actually might have more interest on the Washington side just because, Carolina, you look under the hood a little bit here on their defensive stuff. It's not as good as you think it should be. Not only that, Kochetkov is back, but they haven't been great in net. That Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier line has been very, very good. They're coming in a little over-owned at 8.1%, but they're only 15K. The total 2.7 is not super worrisome because if they go over it, you would assume Ovechkin's going to be involved. I don't mind Washington 1. I also don't mind Washington 2 because they're 13K, they're a filler line. They'll avoid the toughest matchups on Carolina. So I think on both sides, this is more MME. If I had to play a line in this game, it would be the Strome, Ovechkin, Beauvillier line just because they're not facing Logan Thompson. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, it was on mute there.
Yeah.
I was saying, in a nutshell, I do think Gostisbehere helps the top power play unit over the course of the season. I honestly think, underratedly, his impact at even strength is going to be pretty big because the third pair for Carolina was honestly one of the better third pairs in the league before Gostisbehere got hurt. Now, it wasn't a huge sample, but they were just running over the opposition, like even more than most Carolina lines have been. So I think him coming back at even strength, and he doesn't play a ton with the top guys. Like he'll play, with the fourth line, he'll play with the Logan Stankoven line and things like that. So I think it'll really help their depth scores. I'm probably out on Carolina 1. I think the reason why I would have a little interest in playing Carolina 1 here tonight is the Washington penalty kill. It has not been good this year. That it's the one area where, Charlie Lindgren hasn't been great overall, but it's the one area where you can probably get to the Caps. Like if you look at just the team numbers, Capitals by expected goals against on the penalty kill are 25th, shot attempts against, they are 23rd, goals against, they are 28th. Certainly have not been up to snuff on the power play or on the penalty kill. And obviously Shane Gostisbehere coming back should help them on the power play. Now, of course, Logan Thompson's been better than Charlie Lindgren in shorthanded situations, but he's still not been great. He's been below league average, actually. So that's the one reason why I would have interest in Carolina 1, but paying $18K to go up against who's been arguably the best goalie in the league this year, with the hopes that the power play gets better with Shane Gostisbehere gets back, just feels like, stacking what if on top of what if on top of what if. So I think I kind of agree with you. I dipped down to that second line. The Carolina second line, just over 40 minutes together, 69 shot attempts, 4.1 expected goals. They are all creating at least 1.4 expected goals per 60 individually. It's just absolutely insane. My one issue is they're not getting a ton of ice time. Like Carolina's doing that thing where the top line's getting their 18 to 20 minutes or whatever, and then the second and third lines are both playing like 14 to 15 minutes. Like they basically have two, second/third lines. Like it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't mind Carolina too, just because they are 13,300. Like if you get one correlated goal, maybe somebody gets a shot bonus, then you're kind of laughing, like you're fine. So I certainly don't mind Carolina too. On the Washington side, like you mentioned how Carolina's not been up to snuff defensively. I think that's something that's been kind of gone underreported or under discussed. At 5-on-5 this season, the Carolina Hurricanes are 16th by expected goals against and 14th by goals against. They've been basically league average at 5-on-5. That does give some opportunity to Washington. The top guys have been playing more because they don't have Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like they don't really play that third line a whole lot. The fourth line gets some shutdown minutes when they're at home and stuff like that, but they're really leaning heavily on those top six guys. I don't mind Wilson Protas McMichael here. Like 68 shot attempts, 3.6 expected goals per 60, all playing 16 to 17 minutes. Like Connor McMichael's ready to break out. He's at like 1.4 expected goals per 60, but he's shooting under 4%. Like eventually he's going to start filling the net. They're going to avoid the Jordan Staal matchup. So you get into those depth matchups where Carolina is going to be even worse defensively. I think it's both second lines for me in this game. Oddly enough, I think I kind of lean more towards Washington 2 than Carolina 2.
Strangely enough, we're on the same page there. That doesn't happen as often as it should. Los Angeles Kings, the 2.9 total, heading into a Montreal. That was an awful attempt at a French accent. We will work on that, and I will go commit seppuku and shame. The Canadiens have a 3 total. Montreal going Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Newhook, Kapanen, Bolduc, Doc, Gallagher. Kings going Kempe, Kopitar, Joel, Armia, Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere, Kuzmenko down on the third line with Moore and Deneau. Has Montreal been sending out that Doc line in shutdown a little bit at home? No. Just making that up. Anyway.
I mean, they will get some matchups, but they still use Suzuki when they can. Like they still don't completely trust Doc is kind of the issue, right? Like there's some games where he'll only get 10 or 11 minutes of ice time. Like I think Suzuki line got like 80% of the shifts against the Keller line when Utah was in town.
Yeah, I mean, that's of note because the Kings' top 2 lines have been very, very good defensively. I don't want to put too much onus on Trevor Moore and Philip Deneau when you're going out a lot with Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin. You know what I mean? But that's where you can beat the Kings. So, like, if Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky are going to be mostly stapled to that Kopitar line, and listen, like, they took Kuzmenko off, put Joel Armia on. That hurts them offensively. It helps them defensively, and it grinds the pace down. So, like, do I want to spend $18K here for Montreal 1? I think they're fine in MME. I don't know if I want to get there in single entry. There's just so many lines in that 16 to 18K range. You add in like 19K, then you're talking about the Wild top line for around the same ownership. You know what I mean? So I think they're fine in MME. I just think it's just going to be a grindy, slow pace going up against the Kopitar line. That does give me some interest in Doc, Bolduc, Gallagher. They're only 8,800. I don't think you need to full stack them. I think you do like a Bolduc one-off or a Gallagher Bolduc 2-man. if you're trying to power play stack the Leafs or trying to power play stack the Avs, something like that. The only reason I like that is because they're going to see some CC and Dumoulin. And, you talked about the Islanders' third pair being a train wreck. I don't know if you've ever seen an actual train wreck, but I would imagine it's close to watching CC and Dumoulin play together. So I don't mind some Bolduc Gallagher there. You want to one-off Demidov, I think that's fine as well. On the Kings side, if you live on Narrative Street, you can just lock and load Joel Armia, but I don't really want to do that. I think if I was going to play the Kings, it would be the Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere line. The problem is they moved Byfield off the top power play for Corey Perry, who's on the fourth line. So
no, it was for Kuzmenko.
Kuzmenko
was back on the power play
for Kuzmenko. So it's a pretty good power play matchup. So for that reason, I think I would go Kopitar Kempe, leave off Armia, add in Fiala, something like that. I mean, the Byfield line is by far their best line at 5-on-5. So if you want to do that, that's fine. They're coming in right around the same ownership as Washington won for $200 more. They're going to avoid that Suzuki matchup. They're going to see middle six matchups of the Habs. So from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to play them. But I do want to get some power play guys in there. And for me, it would be Kempe, Kopitar, Kuzmenko, Fiala. I'd probably be most likely to play Fiala there with Kopitar and Kempe. So it would be some sort of power play stack for the Kings. It would be the depth of Montreal here. I don't mind Montreal 1 at MME, though.
Yeah, the case for Montreal 1 is it's almost similar to what I just mentioned about Washington. Not that the Kings don't have a bad penalty kill in and of itself. The Kings just take a ton of penalties. They're the fourth most penalized team in the league. And Montreal's power play with Demidov has just been absolutely lights out. Now, I think they're shooting close to 50% since they put Demidov on the power play. That's a great rate would be less than half that. So that's going to come down, but you give them 4 or 5 power plays, like Montreal 1's probably going to cash at least once. But the Kings are a pretty good defensive team at 5-on-5. Even I don't think they're going to see a ton of that Kings third pair. I would like it, but I don't think they will. So I'm kind of with you. I think they're more MME-ish for me than playing them in single entry. The other thing is the ice time is starting to flatten a little bit. I think Suzuki's at 19 and a half minutes a game over his last 5 games. This isn't a guy that's playing 22 minutes a night or anything like that. So kind of with you on leaning more towards Montreal depth. What I will say is I think I'm more on the Demidov, Newhook, Kapanen line. That's a line that's gotten better as the season's gone on, which is kind of funny to think about because they were pretty much a house on fire out of the gate. But I just mean the underlying process. If you look at their last 10 games, 2.9 expected goals for, 3.0 expected goals against. They're trading chances back and forth, but they're creating a lot more quality than they were earlier in the season. So I don't, and Newhook's getting decent ice time, upwards of 15 minutes a game. So that's another one of those spots. If you're power play stacking Toronto, Colorado, those things like a Newhook, Demidov, 2-man, Newhook, Kapanen, those types of things, I think are perfectly fine here. On the Kings side, I would probably go to that Byfield, Fiala, LaFerriere line at even strength. The problem is this is also a solid power play matchup for the Kings, right? The issue is 2 guys on the top line are on the power play, and then 1 guy from each of the next 3 lines. What the hell do you do with that? That's kind of the issue that I have. But like you said, I think that Byfield line misses the Suzuki line quite a bit at 5-on-5. And once you get into the depth from Montreal, especially sometimes against their third pair, which hasn't been very good, I do think he can do some damage. So honestly, I think the Byfield line is my favorite line in this game. 15,200, LaFerriere, Byfield, Fiala. They have been solid this season. 2.8 expected goals, 59 shot attempts per 60. Byfield, Fiala. I mean, Byfield will probably see less ice time, but he had been around 20 to 21 minutes over his last 5 games. The issue is Byfield's been shooting less. He started the season shooting with a good amount of shot volume. His last 10 games, he's under 10 shot attempts per 60 minutes, that's basically like fourth liner level. That's a problem. They're probably my favorite line. This is not a game where I'm super stoked about 3-man stacking anything. I'm going to be honest. I think if I'm going to cheap stack anything in this game, it's going to be like a new hook Kapanen 2-man or something like that. Or, like you said, if you want to go to like Doc Bolduc or something like that. Like, I think the thing that interests me more in this game is looking for the depth players to pair with the higher price guys across other games on the slate.
Yep. If you're talking about me, Harvard white boy from bougie Central New Jersey, you're goddamn right. And I also definitely have a gold chain, so maybe I'll start wearing it. It spins, and it says Cliffy. Dallas Stars with a 2.9 total heading into Ottawa. The Sens have a 3.1. Initially, I was shocked at the Sens ownership total. I was like a little surprised that Ottawa has over a 3 total and Dallas doesn't. But then I realized that like Ottawa's actually a pretty good defensive team. Their goalies have just been a bag of ass. So, like, it kind of makes sense from that standpoint. Do I still want to play Sens here? Not particularly. Like, it's still not a great matchup. And not only that, right? Without Brady Tkachuk, none of these lines are creating anything. And it's a bad power play matchup for them. I guess by default, I would go to Stützle, Batherson, Perron at 14.8. They have negative leverage, though. They've been scoring, and that's the one thing. Their creation numbers aren't great, but they've been scoring. So I guess that counts for something. Like, if you want like good creation and scoring, you could go to Pinto, Giroux, Amadio for 10.9, but that's a filler. It's not like I'm going to start my lineup with them. You know what I mean? If I was going to start my lineup with the Sens, it would be Stützle, Batherson, Perron. If I'm down to needing a $11,000 line, I'll put in Pinto and Giroux or Pinto and Amadio, something like that. They've been fine in 100 minutes this season. So, like, I think, Ottawa 3 is my favorite line. On the Ottawa side, I wouldn't start my lineup with them. But if I needed, an $11,000 line, they're playable. Like Cousins, Greig, Zetterlund has been awful at 5% projected ownership for $200 more. So, like, I don't want to play them. Stützle, Batherson, Perron, fine in 20 max just because they have been scoring. My interest is on the Dallas side here, and both of the top 2 lines are around 18K, coming in at 4.5% projected ownership. Lots of lines at 18K. I don't think I would stack either of them just full out. I think, I either go Johnson, Rantanen, leave off Steele, and added Robertson, something like that, or I go Hintz, Robertson, leave off Sagan, and added Wyatt or Mikko. I think it would be some sort of power play stack. Because while Ottawa has been fine defensively at 5-on-5, their penalty kill sucks, and their goalies have been pretty bad. So if I'm playing Stars here tonight, it is absolutely some form of power play stack, and I'm moving along. So Dallas power play, Ottawa 3.
Yeah. My favorite thing in this game is some sort of Dallas power play stack, and it's like it's not even close. Yeah. The Ottawa penalty kill, it's another one of those things where the numbers themselves are fine, but like you said, the goaltending's just been atrocious. By expected goals against on the PK, the Sens are 7th in the league, and they have a 745 save percentage. It's dead last. So Ottawa is giving up a ton of goals on the penalty kill. They're not going to finish the season with a 745 penalty kill save percentage. Like, that is something that is going to get better by the end of the year. The question is, does it get a whole lot better tonight? Now I bring that up just because of Dallas's power play. Sorry. The Dallas power play this season is at 13.8 expected goals per 60. They are at 12.5 goals per 60. They're also drawing 3.6 power plays per game, which is the 5th highest rate in the league. They're scoring a ton of power play goals. They have 19 power play goals in 16 games. And we know how bad this Ottawa PK has been, especially down in around the front of their net. Like, it wouldn't shock me in the least if Dallas goes like 3 for 4, 3 for 5 on the power play or something like that here tonight. And I think if they do have a DFS winning score, it's because the power play gets at least 2. You know what I mean? So I really do like some sort of Dallas power play stack. It's just a matter of which guys you want to use. I mean, considering the ice time that, these players are getting, it's kind of hard to leave off Rantanen or Johnston. Like, both guys have been like 21, 22 minutes a game over their last 5 games. They're still going to get a ton of ice time until Ben and Duchesne and those guys all get healthy. And Jason Robertson's just been shooting a ton. And you want to talk about a guy that's due for some regression. Jason Robertson's at 1.8 expected goals per 60, and he's shooting under 5%. Like, that guy's gonna, like, that's one of those. Those are the types of numbers where eventually, once he breaks out, he's gonna have like 11 goals in 8 games or something like that. You know what I mean? So, a Dallas power play stack is easily my favorite thing in this game. It's not a great 5-on-5 matchup for the Stars. And the other thing that should be noted is the Stars aren't scoring well at 5-on-5. All their value is coming from the power play. Every time, sometimes like 4-on-4, 3-on-3, sometimes with an empty net. It's not coming at 5-on-5. That doesn't really matter in this matchup, right? Like, it could be the worst 5-on-5 matchup in the world, but it's a pretty good power play matchup, and this is arguably the best power play team in the league just because of how many power plays they draw and how good their power play actually is. So it's some sort of Dallas stack. On the Ottawa side, like, I guess, like Pinto, Giroux, and Mario, I don't have any interest in the top guys. It's not a great power play spot for Ottawa. Pinto, Giroux, and Amadio have been playing well. 62 shot attempts, 3.2 expected goals per 60. Amadio around 15 minutes a game. Giroux 17. Pinto like 20. Pinto's gone 7 straight games without a goal, but I think he's averaging like 2 shots per game in that span or something like that. Like, he's still getting ice time. He's still getting shots. So yeah, I like, far and away my favorite thing in this game is a Dallas power play stack. And I do think a Dallas power play stack makes like a nice pivot away from what could be chalky or Colorado or something like that. Ottawa 3 is fine, but I really just don't have a ton of interest in the Sens in general.
Yeah. Let's get short, shall we? San Jose Sharks, the 2.7 total. Heading into Minnesota, the Wild have a 3.7. William Eklund is back. Jake just gave us an update as we got to that game, which is important because Sharks have some ownership here. San Jose going Celebrity, Toffoli, Smith, Eklund, Wenberg, Kurashev. Minnesota going Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, Boldy, Eriksson, Ek, Johansson, Hartman.
I'm pretty sure if Eklund is in, he's going to be in on that second line.
That's what I just said, yeah. Eklund.
Oh, shit. Sorry, I thought you said Skinner. I'm hearing things.
No. Yeah. Happens.
Sorry.
Even in the wizarding world, hearing voices is bad, Cliffy. But anytime I can quote Harry Potter, I will try to do it. There's a lot of ownership on San Jose 1 here. Celebrating Toffoli Smith, 17,200. 16% top 2 stack, 18.8% projected ownership. Here's the reason to play them. Minnesota's penalty kill has been atrocious since they came into the league. It's the only reason to play them. This line has been bad at 5-on-5 from a creation standpoint. 135 minutes now they've been together. 1.9 expected goals for per 60. 4.9 actual. Like, by expected goals, I think the Sharks are bottom 3 team in the NHL. They've just been running white hot And maybe it continues because the Wild penalty kill is just bad. And the Wild, honestly, at 5-on-5, pretty bad too. But like 18, almost 19% ownership on San Jose 1 for a line that's not doing shit, and a team that's sneak tanking their own power play, I'm probably out on the Sharks here. I think if you want to play the Sharks, you one off William Eklund or something, and you just go about your day. But like, do I really want to one off William Eklund on a 9-game slate? Not particularly. The Wild side is more interesting because they're getting not a lot of ownership. Maybe it comes up throughout the day, but they've been bad at 5-on-5 as well. It would be some sort of power play stack. Like you just go Kaprizov, Zuccarello, leave off Rossi, and add in Joel Eriksson. The problem I have is like I want Boldy in there, and I also want Kaprizov. So I think maybe you go Eriksson, Boldy, Kaprizov. But like Zuccarello's the cheapest one of the 4, so you kind of, if you need the savings, you kind of have to get Zuccarello in there. So maybe you go Zook, Kaprizov, Boldy, 3 wings. You go make a 2-center build, and you go about your day. Just full on power play stack them, I guess you could do as well. It's a good matchup at 5-on-5 as well, but like those numbers with Rossi and Zuccarello, they've gotten a little bit better. I still don't want to play 19,400 for a line that isn't fully correlated. So like I'd find a way to, it's going to get a little bit more expensive, but I'd get in Boldy, and then I get an Eriksson Ek. So some sort of power play stack on the Wild side. Sharks are fine from the standpoint that the Wild are bad, but like that Sharks line really isn't creating shit. So like at that ownership, I'm going to take a pass.
Yeah. So it's a bit of good news, bad news situation for power play stacking the Sharks. The good news is Minnesota penalty kill does suck. The bad news is they don't take a ton of penalties. Minnesota's at 2.2 times shorthanded per game this season. It is by far the lowest in the league. The next closest team is at 2.6. Like there's a bigger gap between Minnesota and the next closest team for fewest times shorthanded per game than there is between the next closest team and the team 10 spots ahead of them. Like the Wild just don't take penalties. So San Jose going to get like 1 power play, 2 power plays here tonight, something like that. Like that's kind of the problem. Now they can go 1 for 1 against this BK. Don't get me wrong. Or 1 for 2. I just don't know if this is going to be like a 2 for 5 or a 2 for 4 night or something like that, right? Like that's kind of the problem. Coming in with a ton of ownership. But on the flip side, the Minnesota Wild are in a very good power play spot. The thing is, these two teams are kind of doing the same thing with their power play in that they're running out the power play units with defensemen that have made the results worse, which is kind of weird. Like, just this San Jose power play, shot attempts down 17%. With John Klingberg there, their expected goals are down something like 38%. Obviously, the goal scoring itself is way down. Like, I don't know why the Sharks keep running out John Klingberg on the top power play unit. Like, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and they're just not changing anything. Like, it is absolutely insane. It's kind of the same thing with Minnesota. If you look at the numbers with Jared Spurgeon compared to Zeev, like expected goals go down like 20%. The goal scoring rate goes down like by over half. Like they are running worse power play units and getting worse results and are just like, well, better luck next game. And I just don't get it. That's kind of the problem that I'm having here is like, this is a great power play matchup for Minnesota because the Sharks do take penalties. They're, about league average in that regard. The Wild do draw a lot of power plays. Minnesota's drawing the 4th most power play opportunities per game. The San Jose penalty kill is quite bad. And yet they keep running out a worse power play unit. Long story short, if I'm playing either side here, I'm just full on stacking the power plays. It's just 5-man stack the power play and just hope San Jose can go 2 for 2 or something like that, or Minnesota can somehow go like 2 for 5 or whatever. It's just frustrating to me that we have clear samples with different defensemen running the power plays, getting much better results, and not just better goal scoring results, more shots, more expected goals, more everything that you look for. And yet these coaches keep going back to worse formations. I mean, it is what it is. You got to play with the cards that you're dealt. If I'm playing either side, it's a power play stack. In a nutshell, I think I would prefer to play San Jose just because they're cheaper and you can fit in another stack. Like if you full on Minnesota power play stack, I think you have like 3K left for the rest of your skater slots. Like you really have to punt the other 3 slots. You can do it. That's why I would probably lean to the San Jose side, but one way or the other, it's a power play stack for either side in this game.
Let's move on to the festival of fuckery of the night. We have the Calgary Flames with a 2.6 total. Heading into St. Louis, the Blues have a 3 total. Don't know where that came from. The Blues going with Thomas Buchnevich, Snuggerud, Kyrou, Holloway, Dvorsky, Suter, Shen, Bukestad. Nicky Bukestad, baby. Calgary going Kadri, Farabee, Sharangovich, Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost, Coleman, Backlund, Hanzek. This game sucks, man. Like, there's nothing fun about this game whatsoever. I tried fading goalies back-to-back games against the Flames. It went horribly because all they do is float crap from the blue line on net. Do I keep fading here because Binnington can't stop a nosebleed? We'll see. I feel like I want to believe that Jim Montgomery's a good coach, and I think he is. I feel like he's going to outthink himself here and send out Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud against Coleman Backlund because he's going to send out that Suter or the Holloway line. Maybe not, actually. Maybe he'll send out Suter, Shen, Bukestad. Seems like he wants to send them out against Top Comp. I don't know. Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud, though, they're going to face middle 6 matchups of the Flames. And, like, going up against Coleman, Backlund, Hanzek kind of sucks. Going up against Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost is a little bit better. They're 13-5, though, and that's what's drawing me to them. They're a top line priced like a filler, and the Flames penalty kill sucks. The problem is the Blues power play blows, but at least that unit is the Fowler unit, and they're fully correlated. So at 2.9%, I don't mind taking a stab on Thomas Buchnevich Coronado. Dvorsky, Holloway, Kyrou, they're more expensive, more ownership, not fully correlated. I'd probably just stick to Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud. Suter, Shen. Yeah. On the Flame side, it would be Frost, Huberdeau, Coronado here. They're also 13,100, coming in under 1%. They're fully correlated. The Blues penalty kill sucks, but the Blues don't take a ton of penalties. And do I really want to rely on the Flames here on a 9-game slate on the road? I'd probably take a stab on them in 20 max. In single entry, if I had to pick a 13K top line, it would be Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud. So by default, I think it would be Coleman, Backlund, Hanzek for me on the Flame side at 10,800. You can use them as a filler if you're power play stacking the Leafs or Wild or whomever. I think it's Humana, Backlund, Coleman on the Flame side, and Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud I think I would take a chance on the Blues.
Yeah, you mentioned the Flames penalty kill. Bottom 5 by shot attempts against per 60. Bottom 5 by expected goals against per 60. Bottom 3 by goal shots against per 60. They're also taking a fair amount of penalties. 3.6 times shorthanded per game. Excuse me. 3.6 times shorthanded per game. It's the 5th most in the league. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this. One, it's a good power play matchup for St. Louis. And the St. Louis power play has been night and day with Robert Thomas in or out of the lineup. Like with Thomas in the lineup, they've actually scored pretty well. Now they've done it shooting 30%. They're not going to keep shooting 30% on the power play, but they have been scoring. The Calgary penalty kill is bad. They take a ton of penalties. Thomas, Buchnevich, Snuggerud are perfectly correlated on the power play. They're not getting a ton of ice time. It's something you and I talked about before the show. Like they've been getting even Thomas and Buchnevich have only been getting around 17 and a half minutes of late. But even 17 or 17 and a half minutes for a perfectly correlated top line in a good power play matchup for 13,500 feels pretty good to me. So I actually do like that Thomas Buchnevich Snuggerud line just in general here tonight. Like if they're getting 17 and a half minutes and they're 16,500, I would say probably pass, like pretty easily pass. At 13,500, you get one power play goal, maybe you get an empty netter. Like that's basically all you need, like something like that, right? Like you don't need the hat trick from one of the players or something to pay that off. So I really do like St. Louis one here. On the Calgary side, I mean, the St. Louis power play, it's eerie how they basically mirror the St. Louis penalty kill. Sorry, it's eerie how they kind of mirror the Senators because the Blues and Senators are 6th and 8th by shot attempts against per 60 on the penalty kill. By save percentage, they're both dead last. They're both at 745. And that Calgary Huberdeau Coronado Frost line is perfectly correlated on the power play, 13,100. The Calgary power play has not been good this year. And the one thing about St. Louis is they don't take very many penalties, 5th least penalized team in the NHL. So considering that they're both similarly priced, I would just go play the Thomas line for an extra $400 instead. So I agree. By default, it would be Coleman, Backlund, Hanzik, 10,800. They're fine to stack if you need a cheap filler stack. Hopefully Bennington just falls apart. He does so quite often. But for me, it's Buchnevich, Thomas, Snuggerud is easily my favorite line in this game. And I do think they're, generally speaking, just in a good spot, a really good spot for the power play to cash in once, hopefully twice here tonight.
Let's talk about the Frostback Super Bowl number 14. Anaheim Ducks, the 2.7 total. Heading into Colorado, the Avs have a 3.9. We don't know Avs lines for sure. They mixed them up against Vancouver, the other night. I would imagine they go back to McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen. They moved Gavin Brindley up to the top line. They moved Netchus down to the second line in that game. I know they just signed Brindley to a contract extension, but I don't think he's going to be on the top line here tonight. Maybe I'm wrong. But as it stands, we have McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen, Nichushkin, Nelson, Colton, Olofsson, Landeskog, Drury. Ducks going Carlson, Kreider, Terry, Gauthier, McTavish, Seneca. I would also keep an eye on Ryan Strome making his season debut here tonight. He was a game time decision on Sunday and didn't play, so he might be back in the lineup. I don't think that will affect the top 6 at all. He'd probably go play with Vetrano.
Yeah, they're not breaking up that top 6. Yeah. He's going to the third line if he's in.
So, I'll start on the Ducks side. They're in Colorado. McKinnon, Netchus, Lehkonen, if they're together, they just go out against everybody, but they're going to see a fair share of that Carlson, Kreider, Terry line. Listen, I love that line. They're fully correlated. They're 16,400, though. This is quite possibly one of the worst matchups in the league for them. Colorado is one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. They have a very good penalty kill. I'm probably out on that Carlson line. It would be the Gauthier, McTavish, Seneca line at 16,200, 1.1% projected ownership. It's still not a great matchup, but Cutter Gauthier is just does not stop shooting. So, I'm fine with a Gauthier one-off here. You want a two-man with McTavish. I don't know that I would full stack them at 16,200. There's lines that I much prefer for like $8,000 to $1,000 cheaper. It's just a brutal matchup. I know the Ducks are the highest scoring team in the NHL right now. I'm kind of mum on the Ducks, and I know that's going to anger a lot of people, but it just is what it is. If I was going to go to a Ducks line, I'd probably just play a Cutter Gauthier one-off for 2 mana with McTavish. On the Avs side, if you're worried about Netchus not being there, I think you just power play stack. Go like McKinnon, Netchus, Olofsson, McKinnon, Netchus, Nichushkin, something like that. Like that Leo Carlsson line has been very, very good defensively. After that, though, it gets a little bit sus, as the kids say. Their penalty kill still is better, but, better than awful is still not great. You know what I mean? So it would be some sort of Avs power play stack. I would obviously build around McKinnon and Netchus. After that, Nichushkin, Olofsson, Makar, do what you need to do, what you can fit, what you're comfortable with, etc. So Colorado 1, Colorado power play, Gauthier one-off is fine. As much as I love Carlson, Kreider, Terry in single entry, it's just really hard to prioritize them in this matchup.
One thing I will like, this is a excuse me, a very bad power play matchup for Anaheim, just because the Colorado penalty kill has been so good so far this season. For fewest expected goals against per 60 on the penalty kill, fifth fewest shot attempts against, second fewest shots against, lowest goals against. It's just a brutal matchup for that Anaheim power play. Here's the thing. At 5-on-5, Colorado's been really, really good defensively. The funny thing is their second and third defense pairs have been their best defensive pairs. It's the Makar-Taves pair that has been kind of lagging defensively. Makar and Taves at 5-on-5, 2.8 expected goals against, 2.8 actual goals against. Now, they're scoring the lights out, so it doesn't really matter in terms of wins and losses. Like if you're giving up 3 goals per 60, but you're scoring 5, it doesn't really matter. But I do think it kind of gives Carlson, Kreider, and Terry a solid matchup at 5-on-5. And listen, they're creating the same amount of expected goals per 60 as the Colorado top line is. So obviously we don't have the same kind of sample going back years that we do of those guys being top end performers. But, this is the 6th week of the NHL season. The Anaheim Ducks were considerably better in the second half. This was a team that we pegged as a breakout team offensively for the season anyway. Everything has points to the top guys being a lot better, and they've been a lot better. And the fact that they're perfectly correlated on the power play is a bonus. If they could somehow go 1 for 4 on the power play, and credit here, the Anaheim Ducks are drawing the second most power play opportunities per game. The only team drawing more is Colorado. So I honestly don't mind Carlson, Kreider, and Terry here. I really don't. I think it would be more MME just because of their price. I can go play St. Louis at home for $3,000 cheaper. Not that St. Louis has been good, the top line, but $3,000 cheaper for a perfectly correlated top line at home against a considerably worse penalty kill. That's just kind of the way that I look at it. But if I play anything, I don't mind Anaheim 1 here. I would probably save them for 20 max and above. I don't think I get there in single entry because Colorado is so good defensively, but I don't mind them. On the Colorado side, it's the top line. The fact that they've been mixing around the lines kind of bothers me a little bit. But again, Nate is on the power play with them. Like I said, Colorado's drawing the most power play opportunities per game in the league. We talked on Saturday how Colorado's power play has been a lot better with Victor Olofsson there, not just in terms of goal scoring, but how their shot attempts and shots and everything have also gone up. If you want to take off Lehkonen or even Natchez, I guess, and put on Victor Olofsson to make it a little bit cheaper of a stack, I'm completely fine with that. But it's the Colorado top line for me pretty easily on that side. again, I don't mind the Carlson line here, but I think I'd be more inclined to play them in 20 max type or 150 max or whatever than I would in single entry.
Yeah, I mean, Frostback's playing the Ducks now, but it is what it is. Columbus Blue Jackets with a 3.1 total. Heading into Seattle, the Kraken have a 3.3. This was a very close runner-up to This Game Sucks, but it's our Columbus Blue Jackets, so I could not do that to them. Columbus played last night. They have something going through the locker room. Who knows what it is? Olivier was out last night, or someone was out last night, but Monahan was questionable. What I'm getting at is, like, I think you might see some lineup changes. Hopefully it's not the top line of Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov, or Monahan, Jenner, Johnson. Seattle goes Beniers, Schwartz, Kakko, Eberle, Marchment, Stevenson, getting 14% ownership projected, by the way. Gag me with a wooden spoon. I don't want to play a 14% Chandler Stevenson line at 12.8. 12.5, the Beniers line is getting 9.5% projected ownership. I don't particularly want to play them either. Like, none of these lines are great together. Like, I wish Shane Wright had someone on his line besides Berkeley Canton and Ryan Winterton. I guess if I had to pick a Seattle line, it's Beniers, Schwartz, and Kakko. Beniers and Schwartz played a ton. Beniers and Kakko played a ton together last year. They had pretty good numbers. It wasn't with Schwartz, but Schwartz, is fine. So I think it would be Beniers, Schwartz, Kakko for me against Mr. Lickens and a bad defensive Columbus team. On the Columbus side, like $16K for Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov is fine, but the minutes aren't great. You're only getting 2 of the 3 on the top power play. Monahan, Jenner, Johnson for $3,300 less for a little bit less ownership aren't playing much less, and you still get Monahan and Jenner on the top power play unit, or Johnson. 2 of the 3. I'm losing my mind. But I think I would go to Monahan, Jenner, Johnson at 12.7. Like, if I'm gonna play a $12,000 line in this game, it will certainly be Monahan, Jenner, and Johnson over either of the Seattle lines. I think Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov are fine. It's just back-to-back on the road, 9-game slate, probably Joey Decord in net. I'm not super high on Columbus just because it's a late start and we don't know what the lineup is definitely going to be. But if I had to pick a line on Columbus, it'd be Monahan, Jenner, Johnson. Beniers line on the Seattle side, but again, like, Seattle, trying to pin down Seattle in single entry is just a fool's errand.
So I hear what you're saying about the Columbus top line, and I reject it outright. I mean, listen, man. It's like this line is up to like 40 minutes together this season. 77 shot attempts, 5.1 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5.
I'm not disputing that they're good. I know they're good, but they're playing 16 minutes a night.
3.4 goals per 60 last year in a much bigger sample, 370 minutes. No, they're not playing a lot. Marchenko's 19.5 minutes. Fantilli between like 17 and 18. Voronkov like 15 to 16. They're also not 19K or something like that, right? Like, it's a $16,000 line. And can we not forget that Seattle's probably, I mean, as far as I know, it's not going to be, like, I'm pretty sure Joey Decord is still hurt. Like, I think it's Grubauer or Matt Murray even. Like, this is not a team to fear. And if you look at, like, Seattle's defense started off fine. Over the last 10 games, they're basically in the middle of the league by expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. And the Seattle PK is not that great. They're like 20th by expected goals against in the league. The goaltending has been garbage on the penalty kill. I get you only get 2 out of the 3 guys, and that sucks on the top power play. But this line has been great offensively this year. They were great offensively last year. This Seattle team's not good defensively at 5-on-5. The penalty kill is bad, and the goaltending sucks. I don't know, man. Like I'm with you. I wish they are all playing 18 to 20 minutes a game, but one guy will play close to 20, one guy will play like 17, 18, one guy will play like 16. Like that's kind of fine to me. If they were 18,700, I think it'd be a different conversation. At 16K, like I'm pretty comfortable with it. I do like Columbus one year. This Seattle penalty kill is not good, and they're probably going to see a fair bit of Chandler Stevenson.
It's also Matt Murray confirmed.
I don't know, man. I don't mind Columbus here. Like I get it's back-to-back on the road. None of that is ideal. I think it's pretty notable. They still have a 3.1 total. I like Columbus one here. I guess they're listed as Columbus too, but they're number one in our hearts. I'm fine with Monahan, Jenner, and Johnson just because you do get the power play correlation 2 out of the 3. They are so much cheaper. Single digit ownership. Like I have no issue with playing them whatsoever. I just, considering how good that Columbus, Fantilli, Marchenko, Voronkov line has been this year, last year, great power play matchup, great 5-on-5 matchup, shitty goalies. I just think there are a lot of check marks to play them. On the Seattle side, I'm not playing a Chandler Stevenson line. I don't think I'm ever going to play a Chandler Stevenson line again. Like, honestly, he has 5 years left or whatever on his contract. I don't think he'll ever be in my DFS lineup again. Benier, Schwartz, and Kako would be where I would go. But do I want to play a Seattle line where their ownership is coming in at 3x their top 2 stack? Like, that's a no for me, dog. So, like, I guess I'm just kind of out on the Kraken. Like, if I have a really good night, but somebody beats me with a Kraken stack, like I'll donate to charity. Like I just can't. It's just not something I'm going to do. So for me, like it's comfortably a Columbus Fantilli game for me.
That is a Jake Hari challenge you just issued, I think. Well, yeah, all right. You've turned me around on Columbus one. I am a little bit worried about whatever the hell is going through the locker room. And it's a 10 p.m. Eastern start, and we just don't know. But, I'm going to shut up and move on to the next game now. Winnipeg Jets, 3 total. Heading into Vancouver, the Canucks have a 2.9 total. This is a pretty shit late hammer if I ever seen one. Winnipeg going Connor, Scheifele, Velarde. Perfidi looks like he's back is he back?
Yeah, he was back last game.
Yeah, Cole Perfidi, Taze, Nemestikov, Niederreiter, Iafallo, Lowry. Vancouver going Pettersson, Garland, Kane, Besser, Sherwood, Reichel, DeBrusk, Rotty, O'Connor. Like this lineup is just something else, man. Winnipeg is one of 2 lines above 20,000 here. Demko's back in net. This is just like the flowchartiest flowchart to ever flowchart game, right? They're 22,100. They're more expensive than Colorado won. They have a 13.9% top 2 stack, 1.7% projected ownership. The reason to play them would be the ownership. They're kind of power play merchants, and by kind of, they actually are. It's just the price thing, man. Like you cannot prioritize Winnipeg in Vancouver when you have an elite power play matchup for Colorado. So, if you get there in 20 max, 150 max, the ownership is very low. So they have slate breaking ability. It's just, they're more of an MME play. The depth, I don't have a ton of interest in. It's just not something that I'm super interested in. I see 6% on the Pettersson, Garland, Kane line. Like, I guess they're fine. Like, they've been creating a bunch, which is new for a Pettersson line, at least in the past 2 seasons. I don't mind that line. But again, like, in that 14 to 17K range, there's just a plethora of lines. I don't really want to wait all night to bank my night on a Elias Pettersson line. I hope he proves me wrong because the NHL is better when he's rolling. But, they're fine in MME. I don't really want to play Lucas Reichel, Sherwood, Besser. So, it would be both top lines here, but it's probably an MME type deal for me.
Yeah, I will say, I don't mind the idea of a one-off Jake DeBrusk or a one-off Brock Besser, something like that, because this is a good power play matchup for Vancouver. Well, good and bad. It's good because Winnipeg is the most penalized team in the league. They're giving up 4.1 power plays per game to the opponent. It is the most in the NHL. Vancouver's power plays had trouble scoring at times, but they're creating shots. They're creating their expected goals on the power play for the top unit, anyways, is pretty good. So I do think the top power play guys can get there. So that's why, I'm fine with playing Vancouver one. Like you said, they are creating reasonably well. Nearly took a while to spit that out. Nearly 60 minutes together. 75 shot attempts, 4.6 expected goals, all playing 19 to 22 minutes, give or take. It's a lot of ice time for 15,600 at home. Problem is, you're still facing Connor Hellebuck. It's not what you want. But it is a solid power play matchup for the Canucks, just in terms of volume that they could see. But I think I'd be more interested in one-offs, honestly. One-off, like I said, one-off the Brusk. I think I'd be fine with a one-off of Vander Kane, something like that. I don't think I'm into full stacking Vancouver against Connor Hellebuck. If anything, in this game would be the Winnipeg top line. I was looking to see how Lowry and Niederreiter have done since Lowry's return. They look like dog shit. Jonathan Toews looks worse. I have no interest in that Winnipeg depth. I mean, it sucks to say. I was hoping he would have a good season. The numbers are they are what they are. They're quite bad. Whether it's on him or the defense, that's a story for another day. So it is the Winnipeg top line. Listen, the Vancouver top line giving up 3.6 expected goals against per 60. The Vancouver second line 3.2 expected goals against per 60. The Vancouver penalty kill. The shots against and expected goals against aren't great, but they're kind of fine. But the goaltending's been bad. So they're giving up the fourth most goals. And we know how good this Winnipeg power play can be. It is a really, really good power play spot for them. I'm going to be honest. I would just go play Colorado at a similar price. That's kind of the issue. If you want to pivot off Colorado, I think this is where I would go, just because Vancouver's is a bad defensive team, but Thatcher Demko can bail them out. If anything in this game, if I stack anything in this game, it's Winnipeg one. But like I said, I think I'm more interested in Cole Perfetti. I think makes a fine one off just because he's getting top power play time. So you can one off, Jake DeBrusk, like I said, I think is fine from the Vancouver side. He's under 5K. Brock Besser's under 5K. Cole Perfetti's under 4K. I think those guys are all fine as one-offs, but as far as stacking goes for me, it's probably Winnipeg one or bust.
Let's talk about defensemen here. Top of the board, we have Makar, Werenski, Hughes of the Quinn variety. The Devils aren't on the slate, so I don't have to do that. Josh Morrissey, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Chikrin. Obviously, Makar, I think, is number one for me. He's 8,300, though, and that's very expensive. I think Werenski at 8,100 also in the similar boat. He played 27-39 last night, which is...
so a slow night for him then.
Yeah, slow. The game before, he was just under 30. So, those guys never leave the ice. Cale Makar has been averaging over 25 minutes a game over the past 10. So, they're just hard to fit if you're, doing something else with Colorado. But I think they're fine. After that, I'd probably just start dipping down into the mid-range. I have no problem with Hughes, Morrissey, Sanderson, Chikrin. They're just in tough matchups. So I'd probably just go all the way up or just start going into the mid-range and down. What are you seeing?
Yeah. At the top of the board is Cale Makar. He's projected for nearly a full point more than the next closest defenseman at 15.6. Werenski's at 14.7. Of the 6K plus defenseman, Makar, not only does he have the highest projection, he has the best point per dollar projection. So I think he does make a lot of sense in what should be a high-paced matchup against the Ducks. I think Werenski's fine. If you don't want to play Columbus, you're worried about who might be in or out of the lineup or lineup changes or anything like that. I think just one-offing Werenski makes a lot of sense. I'm not really kind of stoked about the rest of the lineup. Like Josh Morrissey, I think is okay. But the peripherals kind of worry me a little bit against Vancouver, but Vancouver has been playing more high-paced than they have in recent seasons, so I don't mind Morrissey. The mid-price range, I think the two Seattle guys make a lot of sense, Montour and Dunn. I prefer Montour just because he's blocking a lot more shots. But him or Dunn, I think, make a lot of sense. If you want to put Heiskanen in with Dallas stacks, I think that's okay. Jacob Trouba, I'm not super high on him, but he's getting 24 minutes a game, and Colorado's a high shot volume team, and Trouba blocks a ton of shots. Like, I'm not predicting like a 6-block game, but this feels like the kind of matchup where he can put up something like crazy like that. I think Lane Hudson from Montreal makes sense, just in the sense that if Montreal does go ham tonight, it's probably because of the power play, probably because Lane Hudson gets involved. Devin Taves, like if you want to pit a bit off Makar and go to a cheaper defenseman, Taves does make sense. Even cheaper, Brent Burns, I think is okay. Alexander Nikishin, even with Gostisbehere back, I think Nikishin will still play around 19 minutes, so it's perfectly fine. Philip Broberg from St. Louis, certainly. Ivan Provorov, like he's still getting good minutes for Columbus. Backed off a little bit now that Matejchuk's back, but I still don't mind Provorov. Mike Matheson, even without a power play role, anytime he's under 4K, he gets involved so much in the rush that I don't mind Matheson. For under 3K, Andrew Peeke makes a lot of sense. I think Jordan Spence mentioned it. I'm not sure, was it to you or not? But anyways, their last game, he had the most 5-on-5 ice time of any of the Ottawa defensemen, and he's now playing on the second pair. So I certainly don't mind Jordan Spence. Tyler Myers is projecting reasonably well, and Mario Ferraro from San Jose.
Let's talk about goalies. The top range, like I really just don't have a ton of interest. I saw your post on Blue Sky about goalie price this way.
Yeah. No correlation with a negative slope.
Yeah. I guess if I was spending up 8K and above, the two I would play are Hellebuck at 8K, which is fairly obvious, and Philip Gustafson at 8,300. Like, I know their penalty kill sucks, but the Sharks at even strength have been a disaster from a creation standpoint. So I don't mind it. I don't love it. I guess like Binnington, like why would you play Binnington in 8K when you could play a Hellebuck for 8K? But Calgary just creates a ton of quantity, not a lot of quality. Binnington, on the other hand, hasn't stopped anything, but like this is a decent bounce back spot for him. In just under them, I don't mind Jake Ottinger at 7,900. Demko at 7,400. The penalty kill does worry me there, but I think that's fine. Dustin Wolf also at 7,400. And then Logan Thompson just at 7,200 against Carolina just screams like, why am I priced this low? But at 7,200, I think he's fine. That's probably about as low as I'd go. You can't like Nedeljkovic and Dostal are playable just from the shot volume standpoint, but like if you're that down to it, I just find a way to get Thompson in my lineup.
Yeah, like you said, Hellebuck obviously. I do have to mention Jordan Binnington's carrying the highest projection. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand not wanting to play Binnington. Just look at the start of that he's had. He certainly had shaky stretches last year. Calgary still has a serious problem scoring. Feels like one of those games where, like, if Bennington gets pulled of 4 goals on 12 shots against the Calgary Flames, it's like, don't even bother getting on the bus after. Like, we're terminating your contract.
We'll still start you in the Olympics, though.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be 100%. So yeah, Bennington does have the top projection for any of the goalies. Do have to mention that. I really do like Hellebuck in that expensive price range. Also mentioned Sam Montembeault. Listen, I know he was quite bad for the first month of the season. I don't know if anybody remembers last year, but he was one of the worst goalies, at least by goals saved above expected, in the first month of the season. Then he was one of the best for the next 5 months. I mean, he's had 2 good games in a row now. I think very reasonable that he's turning it around. For cheaper goalies, Elvis Merzlikins. Not that I have any amount of faith in Elvis Merzlikins, but it is the Seattle Kraken. So, it is what it is. Logan Thompson. Listen, the guy's 7,200 and has been arguably the best goalie in the NHL this season. I get that Carolina is one of the top scoring teams, but I think Logan Thompson is 7,200. If you need a cheap goalie, makes a ton of sense, as does Lucas Dostal. Those games could end up like 6-4 or something like that. But they could also very well end up 3-1 where, either of those goalies makes like 39 saves on 40 shots or something. They're both capable of it, and they're both in matchups where it can happen.
Bennington's issue is that he hasn't tried to fight anyone this season. That is true. Maybe he will try to sucker punch Kadri and have a 37 save shutout if he doesn't get ejected. We should be back tomorrow. We are scheduled, unless the GPPs are terrible, but we will for sure be back Thursday. Who you liking for your hat trick pick tonight?
I mean, I'm not playing them tonight, but who knows? Jaden Schwartz.
Covering your bases. I can respect that. I'm probably not playing this team either, but I love to see the turmoil on Twitter after. Morgan Geekie.
Like I keep saying, I was like, no way he's shooting 22% again, and he's shooting like 28 or 29%. I was just like, okay, whatever.
Not sustainable, but we'll take it for best puck. We will be back, like I said, probably tomorrow, if not Thursday. We'll see you then. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Good luck, Frostback, in your Super Bowl, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Good luck tonight, everyone.